All right, truth seekers, it is Friday, and we got a great show for you here tonight. We're going to talk about those insectoids. A lot of people hear praying mantis and all these different insects and everything else. And I'm going to take you back to 1957. There was a story in Cincinnati where a nurse reported encountering roughly what they consider a 3 foot tall praying mantis. Now, that's a little different. Seeing a praying mantis, that's just like a big bug if you start thinking about it. But like any other entities, they were saying this after they've been seeing what they call a V-shaped UFO sighting. And why I brought this up, because that V shape was in the movie Disclosure. And those are some of the things there. Now, there was a big claim about this. It was abduction researcher Brian Thompson said a nurse reported the 3 foot like mantis entity in 1957. And again, it was after the a V-shaped reporting that was shown. Now, he passed it to a researcher named Leonard Stringerfield. You can kind of look that up yourself, who said that he had 2 filed cases of witnesses reporting identical circumstances in the same place in the same year. So if you live in Cincinnati, it's worth you looking into. Now, one of the things that I want to touch on today is the fact that we're talking about insects or insectoids or some of the things that we were looking at. But it was always hard for me, even as a ufologist, to gather the fact that there's an animal with 2 big old arms like this walking around flying spaceships. Now we think about it, they're more interdimensional or dimensional, and so they're traveling this way. And I just don't think they're just coming out of spaceships. Even the same thing, Chewbacca, when you talk about Star Wars and all of this, that it was in a spaceship, and Chewie and all. If you remember that, you may not be old enough to do that. Now, there was some evidence in Wikipedia. So if you want to go look that up, you can. And it's under alien abduction. And it was a sighting by Thompson Stringfield account. So you can go back and look into it. Now, it's kind of a weak event if we start doing our evidence meter, because I do an evidence meter on all of my research that I kind of go into. And right now, this comes back as medium. It's a claim. This is what I call a secondhand researcher account. So in ufology, when we're trained to do this, we look at things that are secondhand information. Now, in a minute, I'm going to also, if you remember, there was supposed to have been an alien landing or abduction or whatever at the Miami. Our team was split. TK said, hell to the no. Devin said yes. He's been trying to clear it up a little bit. But we're going to hear from them today, too, because I need them to kind of like, okay, we got to admit some things, when it comes down to it. Because, again, I didn't do a knowledge assessment. I didn't do a psychological examination on our team members or just wherever. But you learn as you go. Okay, you learn as you go. And so I think it's worth noting that we will look at those things. And then I'm going to show you something that I discovered for myself, a place of peace, a place of me really finding over this last week. A lot has been going on. We're making tremendous progress, but also me mentally and spiritually even getting better and understanding things. So I'll share that with you. Now, back to this account, we're just talking about how people see these things. Now, supposedly when you come to the mantis beings or the insectoids, they're supposed to be a little more passive. They're supposed to be a little more empathy, whatever, and if you go back to all the historic information, they have humor. Even when you see their depictions in different shows, they are laughing. They got this incredible humor and everything else. And so they are not seen as everything else. And so now, if you're in the chat right now watching us, it's Friday. Talk to me a little bit. What do you think about these mantis beings? What do you think about insectoids? Because we don't talk about that a lot. We don't have a lot of conversations about them, but I would love to get your point of view when it comes down to this. Now, there was a puzzle of this thing because researcher John Carpenter, okay, now he framed the core mystery as a question. And let me think about this for a minute. And I'm going to pose this question for you because as truth seekers, we got to go look at these things, right? We have to think about the obvious. And like I said, we got people having problems with reptilians. We got people having problems with insectoids or the little grays and Linus. And then all of a sudden we get these tall whites, the Nordics. It's like everybody's planning their theory of some type of alien being, but maybe the planet was totally different back then. And we can think of evolution too. Because what concerns me, and which could concern you, is when you start thinking about a feline type alien species, and yet we got these cats walking around here. Or, like in the movie, Men in Black or whatever, Will Smith in the movie, you stepping on a roach, but yet you got a big roach flying a spaceship. I mean, make it make sense, and so we can do that. We can hit that door over there too, y'all. Anyone of y'all? The door? Yeah. So, so when you think about it, just we can say to ourselves, just make it make sense, right? So his question was, why would anyone imagine a large bug directing an abduction? So think about that for a minute. John Carpenter, and I'm with him at some point, and I was, okay. Why would anyone imagine? Now we're talking about the mind, we're talking about consciousness, we're talking about how we see these things. Now, yeah, you're correct, Gina. These bugs are in movies or ant movies, and then you hear the Hopi people, the Hopi Indians talk about, remember their tradition of back in the day that these ant people brought them down into underground when the great floods was happening, of course, the deluge or whatever you want to call it. And so at this time, it makes things a little different and pretty much from there. But again, stick around because we're going to chastise Devin a little bit. TK is going to get into this game because she was to the left and right. You get to see them not paying attention when we're doing the show, and they're all into something else, but they're producers and they're into the show. Y'all gonna get to see something, and how I'm gonna do that magically in a little bit. I got a great idea that I want to do that. So let's get into some of the possibilities here. And like I said, how many of you believe that not reptilians, but insectoids exist? Let me hear from you. I want to hear from you right now. What are your thoughts about insectoids? Put it in the chat a little bit. Get into the game tonight. It's Friday. You ain't got nothing to do. You ain't gonna lose your job on a Friday night. You know what I'm saying? Like Smokey in the movie Friday. Let's get down with it tonight. Let's go. However, like I said, we're going to at some point. Let me just kind of put this on the screen for you a little bit. There's Devin and there's TK over there a little bit. Y'all wave and let me know y'all can see them. But at the same time, Devin, we're going to get into your thing. We're going to, you just real quickly in 30 seconds, why they didn't show.
Don't know. I was
well. That's enough. Okay, why do you think they didn't show? Why do you think they didn't show?
It wasn't the right time and moment for it. It just wasn't. You would have felt a shift or alignment in the atmosphere, just on a celestial plane type vibe. Just to be honest with you, my spider senses didn't go off, so I was like, hell no, it's not going down.
Oh, okay.
But maybe they did, just not in this timeline.
Bullshit. You just come. Good Lord. So okay, so. We'll get with that in a few minutes. Maybe they did, maybe we didn't. But regardless to the fact, though, they didn't show. So we'll get back. I'll bring them back up here in a few minutes, and we'll get to that. So the thing about it is, I think it's someone said they agree with you, TK. So that's cool. Let's get down into the conversation. We want to understand who is talking about. We're talking about self-described abductees and experiencers. This is where it's coming from. The abduction research community. All these people are saying that this stuff exists. And again, over the 20th century, we have to think about it. Insectoids, mantis, aliens. Now, we use the word archetype has emerged in abduction testimony all the time, and usually described as exoskeleton, large-eyed, telepathic, and occupying a supervisory role over the smaller grays and workers. The reptilians run the grays. Everybody run the grays. Now, we're not talking about the tall grays. We're talking about those little bitty grays, EBEs or what. I don't know if those are the EBEs, but you have all the different types of grays out there. And so maybe that changes everything. We're talking about the smaller ones, though. I ain't say those tall grays. And when you start thinking about the motif of the insectoids, the abduction research files goes all the way back to 1950s. Now, when we start thinking about disclosure right now, in the government's disclosure, they're not releasing anything about Roswell. They didn't put that in the disclosure files, right? And so obviously we know that it's a controlled release on what they're doing because we already know these things. But we talk about hypnosis, recovered cases, clusters in the 1980s, now coming into the 90s. And then we can go all the way back to cultural ancestry that runs back into the 1900s. And so these stories is out there all the time. These stories are out there, and it makes us wonder what we need to be looking at. Now, of course, we're talking about worldwide stories, but we can focus here in particular the US, the UK, we're talking Canada. All of this is in their particular abduction literature when it comes down to a mantis versus all of these things. And of course, if you want to get into some of the official things, and before I get to that, let's talk about why it matters, because the mantis, here's my opinion, and through research, the mantis is the clearest test case for those whole abduction debates because it's too specific to be coincidence. Coincidence, I've always said, is God's way of being anonymous, and of course, is a little too literary to be independent. And so that's the whole point when it comes down to the mantis and insectoids and everything else. But that takes us to the idea. We have avians, we got dolphin people, we got tall grays again, we got EBEs, we have, Lyrians, we got, the list just goes on and on. The list does not stop, by the way. And it continues to add to these things to a point to where, okay, what's really happening? And that also brings us into the point of who's really around here. All right. Now, there's a book out there by Capizzi or whatever, Campisi, whatever his last name, and it has 80 species of reptilians, not reptilians, but different aliens. And I've talked about some of those in previous shows. So we're talking 80 species versus everything else. And someone saying, what could they possibly want with humans? Everybody, as Panthers, want the humans, okay? Because the humans appear to be the top of the food chain or the new evolution of things, because you got to remember all these other planets and other species took thousands of years to evolve, especially in technological race and all these things. But if you think about humans have evolved faster than any other species out there. We're just maybe looking at where we are today, but just think about less than 100 years ago, we didn't have nothing in the sky. The Wright brothers and all this stuff didn't, and we went from 100 years from there to jumbo jets, and now eventually anti-gravity, now space items and all these things. We're technologically advanced species, in such a way of our growth and knowledge, and which is also keep us why we're so feared too by many, because humans are designedly made, and we're probably one of the last parts to get here in this universal thing. So everybody's come in and said, hey, let's go to Earth, let's collect these species. It's almost like you went on a safari and you wanted to bring back a specimen of an ant, a specimen of a roach, and a specimen of a mongoose or whatever. And that's how they see us when they're traveling to this planet. They be like, hey, I want one of those. That's cool. That's really cool. Let's go do that. And then we think about population growth, and we think about, how do we grow to billions of people? And to them, we were like roaches. We expanded on this country, this planet really fast. We really grew on this planet really fast because they're living thousands of years. We're thinking when they changed our genes to live maybe 100 years, but when you think over a 1,000,000-year span, we have grown immensely, which is why they want to depopularize or the theory of bringing down some of the people around here, because at some point it just makes sense when we do that. So outside of that, like I said, stick around. We're going to bring Devin and TK in here because maybe the dates was off. Maybe it wasn't the 24th that the aliens was come. Maybe it's Monday the 29th. You know, he can make some stuff up. I mean, we're gonna go with that. But basically, his wife is back. She did get back from the trip, so maybe he got to come up with a new date. I don't know what the plan is. We'll just come with that. But let me give you a couple of claims out there. Now, the central question before those claims is, if unconnected people describe the same insect, is that evidence of something real or evidence of a shared human neurology in shared cultural area? Now, people over here have said they've seen these mantis beings. People over there have described seeing the mantis beings. And these people are to a point where, you know, they're like, well, how is that a coincidence? Now, Carl Jung explains that. You should go look up the man and his symbols and everything else. And Carl Jung talks about us having three layers. We have the conscious world that we are in presently. Then you have the subconscious world that is running independent program right now as we speak. Then there is a lower basement level called the collective unconscious. Now that area is hidden, it's there, but it's supposed to be shared, right? Now, how do we talk about being shared? Okay, let me get to that in just a second for you to give you some pointers here. But the collective unconscious, okay, can only be accessible through symbols. Now, I didn't write the program. I'm not saying that whatever, but everyone from the esoteric world, from the Illuminatis to everyone from Aleister Crowley, everyone knows that symbolism accesses that collective unconscious. But here's the theory about this. The collective unconscious is the whole point of us saying that you got to remember, from the collective unconscious is saying that it's a shared consciousness between everyone all across the board. Now, if you got this shared consciousness, then you want to think about what are we talking about? Well, now that goes back to the theory that we all are source. We all come from source. We all one. And if we did, why wouldn't we share the commonalities of dream states and all these things? So if that is the case, then that can answer the possibility of why this person saw a mantis, this person saw a mantis, and this one saw a mantis, and it was all seemed the same, but enough for us to be like, ooh, that's strange, at this point. And so those are the things. And I guarantee you, 100% men in here, we all have dreamed of Beyonce, and we saw the same one. But that don't mean anything, right? I mean, no. And maybe that is a bad decision to be talking about. Okay. Herb Baby Daddy or whatever. Did I say that? Herb Baby Daddy. Hey, I like the name. Which book are you speaking of? And we'll go for that. So in the meantime, let's bring TK and Devin into the conversation so that we can kind of go into that and pretty much. All right. So Devin, first of all, man, they didn't show. The aliens didn't show. They did not show. But I did see on the internet that there were people, not just you, but there were people who were influencers who went to Miami. They all was filming from down there, and I'm like, damn, what does that say about the psychic world? But how do you feel right now knowing it was all bullshit and you was part of it?
I wasn't part of it. I was hoping that they would show
Okay,
up.
so let me just make sure. I'm not a lawyer. I was hoping that if you were in a legal case, I was hoping that my bullet hit you. I was hoping that the car crashed. You get what I'm saying? Hoping is a strong thing, meaning you believed it.
Somewhat. I was hoping that it would materialize, but obviously it didn't. She came to that conclusion via a dream. So it didn't happen. I don't know.
You gotta do better than that, man. You talking like, TK, let's look at our guy and you tell him, dude, you fell for the shit. Just give him, you gotta be straight up because we keep it real.
We're gonna keep it real.
We keep it real.
I don't know what made you feel like you just had to fall into the notion of the bullshit and go with the one. But it's okay. You got us here to help make sure you don't do nothing else foolishness.
That's what I'm talking
In
about. See,
my
this is how we
defense,
look out
though,
for each other. Yeah.
in my defense, they are, even today, for the last couple months, there's been UFO sightings all over Florida, especially off the coast.
Is he gaslighting this situation, trying to move it to somewhere?
I'm just
I mean,
saying.
Is
even
that a
if that's the case,
narcissist?
they didn't
A
come get the
narcissist
people
gone
out.
No, they
wrong?
didn't get the
They didn't
people at
come get the
all.
people at all.
No, they didn't get
at,
anyone.
at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, come on. I mean, it's like, it's
I just want to see how the government was going to spin it. If
the
it actually
government.
happened,
They didn't even make it to the front line. They
Well-
didn't fall for that one.
well, I'm trying to see how the government's going to spin all these UFOs off the coast of different countries right now.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So, y'all in the audience a little bit before we move on to the topic of at hand here. Anything y'all want to say to Devin? He's over there. Okay. It's Friday. You can get your liquid courage, whatever you want, but I'm gonna give you an opportunity to stay that. All right. He says all your books. I'm interested in what you got going on from here. Okay. You can go to roderickmartin.com. Uh, uh, baby daddy 32, and you can get my book, and I can do a signed personal copy of that one. The website should have been up. I got to call up the people who moving it from Wix, from Squarespace to Wix, and we'll get to that in pretty much. So, all right. Someone said, I want to know what's the process to reconnect to the telomeres so that we have a longer life. I'm not really familiar with. You familiar with the telomeres?
Yeah. They're talking about like 250,000, 300,000 years ago when Inky gave us the special sauce when they the chromosome number 2. He put telomere caps on the caps of on the end of chromosome number 2 to shorten our life. And the Sumerian tablets and Emerald tablets, they say we cannot live no longer than 120 years.
Oh,
So
I
in
didn't know I had
pristine
time.
condition, but
Okay.
that's what they're talking about, telomere caps.
Oh, okay. All right. So we'll get back to this in a moment, but one of the main things we want to talk about some other evidence when it comes down to the mantis beings and insectoids. What do y'all think about that? Have you ever visualized a mantis or some type of roach or something in your dream?
No, but as a child growing up watching Space Ghost, it just made me wonder, were they really those out there? And then just being in the group, it's just like, okay, so this is a possibility. Because have you ever seen Space Ghost? It's like an old cartoon that comes on Cartoon Network late at night.
How?
Ooh,
No,
what,
at all.
1980 something?
Yeah. So what have you seen any aliens? I mean, not aliens, but insectoids. You're talking about mantis beings and everything else.
No, I've never seen any. But a lot of ancient tribes, they talk about them. They talk about the ant people that took them underground to survive wars, and the Dogon tribe talk about the knowledge that they gave them, which they're confirming today, which was a few thousand years ago. So people are basically saying the same thing, different continents, different timelines throughout the history of Earth. And they're all basically saying the same thing. So it has to be some validity to the story.
Okay. Well, yeah. All right. So now they claim the name mantis cases are overwhelmingly hypnosis recovered, not contemporaneous or whatever they want to call it. But Linda Porter recalled in 1963, just to give y'all some evidence here, encountered under hypnosis in 1988. David Huggins, under hypnosis, he recalled a childhood air encounter. Carla Turner's, if y'all going to look her up, which is the subject David recalled as a giant mantis during a hypnosis session. So all these people are bringing these things up in a hypnotic way versus the reality. So not too many people are saying, "Oh, I saw a UFO last night and I seen, a mantis," and so I think there's something different there. Once again, go to Wikipedia though. Insectoid anomaly contemplation is in there, and they're going to go back to Hangar One, which we know came from some of the TV shows. UAP Digest and was there, and they're just still saying that these beings, these particular mantis type insectoids, use more hypnotic things when they come to see people and everything else. I'm still, even though I have been in this game for quite some time, I have never personally interviewed anyone who saw a mantis being or insectoid. And it's almost a little disconnect when it comes to our community on that one. But, I don't know if that matters or anything. But the whole point, I've interviewed a lot of people in our community, and I don't recall coming up, and if they did say something about a mantis being, then I could, you can hear the relation to maybe they saw it on TV or saw something. And it's just kind of weird. But the other point to this is the fact that hypnosis recovered memory is exactly the categories these researchers flag as contamination prone. Now, why is that? Contamination prone is saying that it could have been planted. All right. And this is coming from these researchers and everyone else, that this could have been planted. This particular ideology, this mantis beings could have been planted. So I think that's something that you might want to look at it from there. And they're saying these present day testimonials never as records. So people are saying it. They're saying it in a testimonial. Maybe they're dreaming it. Maybe they're doing everything that they can, but it's not showing up as anything other than that. So that is something
Robert,
there. Yes.
I recall a couple abductions that I heard about. They were saying that they were abducted by the Greys, and the Greys were basically the assistants. They were holding them down or doing minor procedures, but the insectoids were like the major or the head surgeon that was doing the procedure on them.
Okay.
I've heard a few abduction stories about that.
Yeah, I mean, again, the Greys have always been known, the small Greys, as servants to the reptilians, servant to some of the taller Greys. And so we know that there's different factions of these Greys that's out there. So it's not something that, we have not heard of. Now, another thing, a claim was that a mantis insectoid entities also reoccur in DMT experiences. Suggesting this is kind of a cross content pattern as well. So you all can kind of Google that, look that up a little bit. But the UAP Digest references this. They're claiming that it's a psychedelic literature. So people are on psychedelic drugs, or maybe they're using mushrooms. Maybe they're doing something that pulls them into that direction where a big old, insect is sitting there. And so there's something there. When I called in 2 nights ago, I mentioned that you have to have a discernment, and I don't trust psychic women off the bat. That shit sounded too far-fetched. Well, all right, I'm with you on that. Let's give Open Door Policy Podcast a hit there. Talk about the 7 fires prophecy of Obi-Wan in Canada. They talk of the beings of light as well. I don't know too much about that. Maybe, one of these days you can come on the show since you got a podcast, maybe, we can do that. Thank you for the donation, but maybe you can come on the show. Email me at contact@whythebigsecret.com, contact@whythebigsecret.com. And maybe we can get you on the show to kind of explain that and give you some weight to your podcast as well. So maybe we can do that. Ancient cultures, when you start talking about the Egyptian Book of the Dead, all right, this is kind of, they feature mantis figures, implying deep continuity if you go back to the ancient side of things. And so I think it's something that we need to possibly look at from an evidence standpoint of how it goes. Now, this is probably, I don't know how strong to link this, but believer sources talk about the etymological mythology fact that the Sans Trickster or whatever you want to call it, deity, Kagan, does have mantis association. So if you go back and look at the trickster deity, Kagan, and look up the history of that, saying it's a trickster. And remember, I told you at the beginning of the show that a lot of people depicted the mantis and insectoids. I've heard this in the military complex, that they were jokers. They were like playful and everything else. And they've always been seen this way. And so it doesn't surprise me that the trickster deity Kagan is associated with the mantis. And so I think that's something that'll trip you out from there. But also, they're saying that they trick you into false implication of continuity with abduction lore. So the sand mantis, or what they call it, and the abduction mantis are not the same tradition. So they supposedly two different traditions, but again, it appears into the mantis beings. And so I think that's something that we will look forward to from there. Also, there's no physical trace when you start thinking about this. No senses of how often a mantis appears. No, because we talk about the grays, we talk about all of these things, and there's just no physical trace on that when it comes down to it. So it's worth us looking at. So I think I've asked this question before. We got more people into the room now. How many of you have seen mantis beings? How many of you have literally heard somebody that let's go firsthand and secondhand theories and stories here that you've heard something about a mantis being, at this point. Let's see it in the chat a little bit. I know we got some delays there. Also, I've been working real quickly on, again, like I told you, I ended up the other day getting very fortunate and received a package in the mail. And lo and behold, it is a beautiful package. And it's so colorful. And I just want to share it with y'all. So now you see I have my paint markers. These acrylic marker set, okay? And I can't tell you over the last 24 to 48 hours of the relief mentally of just staying creative while I'm talking and thinking that I've created my first blue avian. I don't know if if the camera can focus on that and get off my face, but there you go. I created my first blue avian figure. I'm working on a mantis insectoid being too. The insectoid is right there. Let me have that little one. It's on to the right up there, and the dolphin person. They both on the end over there. So I created that one. I made this Area 51. Let me put there's my little Area 51. And I'm painting these things. And so here is my Insectoid mantis being right there. I just broke his little antennas. So I'll paint one of these for y'all pretty much. This is the dolphin being. This is my other little alien. This is an ancient alien right there. So I'm painting those. Somebody said I want a blue one too. I don't know which. Oh, you have blue avian. Yeah, I have all of them. This is when we do our shadow work real quickly. This is the 10, your solar plex energy need to be protected from the reptilian part. So I made these custom. And then, of course, I'm going to make a big one of these, y'all. So he's going to be big, along with the big one like this one. And if y'all want a big alien or something on your desk and you want to paint these yourself, let me know. I'll ship one of these out to you. I haven't priced them yet. This is really good. Be a good tabletop at work. Now, this was he's a mean looking alien, but this one and then this one is more what I call my ancient alien. So I'm going to sell a lot of these a little bit so that you can have the different head pieces. This is going to be a kit that I'm going to have all the aliens there for you. And let me know if y'all be interested in that. Maybe you want a alien connection, or maybe just something that's best at work. So you put this on your job at work, the whole people at work going to know where you stand. Okay. I want a cute one. You're talking a cute gray alien. Okay. I knew that though. I knew that. So y'all give another shout out here to Open Door Policy. Says after veterans retreat worth the natives, I believe I've seen jellyfish being okay. And it's constant. And were there parasites and see them all? Yeah, I don't think I've heard of the jellyfish beings, by the way, but I think it's interesting and pretty much. So nice work. I want a keratin just like the blue one. So everybody like the blue alien, huh? Well, I'm actually have more than that. Okay, I'm making all of these ones. I'll show y'all why we're doing this real quickly. TK, a little bit. Let's let y'all talk a little bit about any stories y'all heard of Mantis being while I get this clip for them, okay? Okay, now y'all are. Go ahead.
Testing.
I bet they can hear y'all now.
Okay,
Oh,
yeah, they
okay.
can hear us now.
Yeah, it's when I took myself out, it took y'all off the screen.
No, what I was saying was, I'll just repeat myself.
Yeah, please do.
The only thing that I know about praying mantis is after the woman makes love to the man, she'll bite his head off, and that is facts. I learned that in grammar school. But a lot of the indigenous tribes from Australia to Africa, a lot of the major continents, they all have the same story about either ant people or insectoids protecting them, you know, taking them underground, protecting them for whatever astrological, you know, thing that's going to happen. They're protecting them for some reason. And as I said before, the insectoids, every or most abduction cases that I've read about, the insectoid is always the head surgeon, or he's conducting while the greys are like the worker bees.
Okay.
So, and I think the insectoids, they're like the head beings here on the planet. That's what I can gather, and they're the most intelligent also. So,
the insectoids.
the insectoids.
Well,
Yes.
they've said that, and you hear that a lot, that they're supposed to be again, like I said before, they definitely supposed to be the humorous ones when it comes down to this. And so those are the things that people talk about from that. All right, so what I'm going to do real quickly, you all, I think y'all was just talking. So here's the figures. Remember, I just showed y'all this blue alien. So I'm just going to make each one of these, the blue alien, the Nordics, the tall grays, and pretty much the blue dolphin, which I already made the dolphin one. The dolphin one is right here in my hand, so I made that one. And I've already, we're going to do the reptilians, the Nordics, and then you have these, which is these ones as well. So I'm going to make some of those. And I may make that whole collection and put that whole collection together, but they'll be little like this. I don't want to make them no bigger, and then maybe y'all can buy the whole thing. But right now, I'm going to make the bigger head gear and stuff like that, in pretty much. So again, one of the things about this is that these beings, when we're talking about the mantis beings, and the kind of stay on track there, is that they're described as benevolent, and they're eco guardians, of course, at this point, and sometimes they're supposed to again be the good guys. And Devin was just mentioning that because a lot of people haven't seen them do nothing bad, except for they've seen them when people get abducted, they're the ones behind the scenes, like the medical doctors of this thing. It's kind of like Planet of the Apes. You had the orangutans, this and this. It's like it's all species and everything else. But the thing about it is the whole description of these things has been the same. They all talk about exoskeleton. They all talk about the huge big eyes. They're telepathic. So these things don't speak, which also tells me that they're not into the hybrid type stuff that everybody else has done. Everyone else has mixed themselves with humans in some capacity, and so they have not done that. So maybe that's the point where people are thinking they're benevolent and they're not doing this, but yet they're still calming. But here's the catcher. They're supervisory. They're very controlling things, and this is consistent and the believers and everyone else who's talked about them and everything else. And so I think that takes us to a whole different scenario when you want to talk about these insectoids or the mantis beings and also there. But if you really start thinking about the larger meaning, we can look at it from a psychological part that these things are kind of could be the shape of a human imagination, could be a mirror. Oftentimes when we're in this collective unconsciousness, it's a mirror that we're seeing, and it comes to those things once we do that. So I'm just giving you an example. I'm just saying that the insect world, when you think about it, or should you be careful the next time you go out and there's a mantis sitting out on your porch? How many of us walked out there and stepped on one or sprayed it or whatever, and killing insects? And that goes back to it now. Should you not do that? Should you not go out and whack an insect these days and be careful of all life forms? Now, yeah, you heard the story if you was in church. Oh, the ant is carrying a mustard seed, and the mustard seed can turn into a forest, bullcrap, whatever, and I grew up in that kind of world, and so, don't kill the ant. Like, really? And so there's just so many depictions and stories and things that we hear what is real anymore. Now, with that being said, here's my thing that I want to get into. People, we got to be careful because we're now arriving in the times that they're getting ready to play with our minds. They already started. The door is open. They're going to play with the mind. Obviously, the physicality of things is not where they can control things, but somehow, and not somehow, but theoretically, they know to play with the minds. And so the same thing that Devin fell for this down in Miami and all the people who went there, not just him, it was a bunch of them. It's in our minds of all of this. And the same thing that we're, possibly in the ufology of this, somebody can say, now we do know reptilians exist in a physical form, dimensional form, and a conscious form. Now that's kind of hard to put all that together, that you got a conscious being in your mind or with you, you got a physical being. But then if you think about that, you have consciousness, that you have, and you can lose consciousness just by them cutting off your air supply, so to speak, that it's all a separate modality. The physical self, the conscious self, and so cannot all of these things function in the same places obviously at the same time. And that's a question to be answered when it comes down to this. So I think it's really interesting that we are seeing this, but I'm saying it is time for people to begin the process. And I'm so proud of everyone who this past week joined our Patreon, the 33 Parallel, because the first line of defense is the same technology that they taught their CIA operatives, because now we can start protecting the mind. And I was just telling someone the other day of me being visited one night, most recently by this deity or whatever. And I wasn't afraid. I wasn't, I knew what to do. And a lot of people don't know what to do. I was just talking to Yaya and Brother Yosef. And Yaya was like, man, I'm so proud of you. You just knew, because I'd be telling people, see, I said, nah, I wasn't afraid. I was pissed. Like, get the fuck out of here. You know what I'm saying? And it's real that these things exist. But once your consciousness understand this and you begin to not let it play with your mind, you can defend yourself. And oftentimes you can be a physical specimen in the real world, but the mind is messed up. The mind can't handle certain things. You can be a kid within the other realms, within the other dimensions of your mind. And we know that because we got people, they say, well, this is a childish thing. So my thing for you, I'm saying, is that if they're going to do all this AI, and they're already doing it, if they're going to present to us a fake world, they're already doing it. It's a fake world. And I know that everyone out here have gotten to a point where you have looked at something on social media and you looked at it twice. You did a third time, a fourth time, because you didn't know this is not real. And back in the day, you can see 16 fingers on the hand or 7 fingers. It's perfect now. These things are real. Everything is real. But is that a message? And so when you start talking about the mantis beings, and they're saying that a lot of them play telepathy. They play within our minds. Maybe like they're saying, they're higher intelligence, so they know how the game is played. They're playing in our minds. And so this is very important for you to get to learn the out of body experiences. I'm telling you, you got to learn. And like I said, for being part of what we're doing behind the scenes, you're talking less than $1 a day to change your entire life, your entire world, your entire being, your entire conscious beings. Now you may say, well, I can't afford these things, but maybe it's consciousness. What happens if you elevate your energy and vibration and you learn the cosmic conversations that's supposed to be happening? Then at this point, things could change and everything else. So I'm just giving you to tell you that the attack on the mind it's already begun, but it's getting ready to be very prevalent as we venture down the road. And I know everybody's walking around thinking their mind is the perfect thing. So let me kind of give you what I'm talking about. So the mantis encounters is known as neurological events. The mantis encounters is known to be in the mind. Nobody saw them in a physical form. No one. No one has seen them walking around here in a physical form like some of these other beings, grays, reptilians, and the list goes on. But the mantis appears to be the only one that shows up telepathy and then also in the neurological mind. And the question is why? And okay, if once again we go with what Devin just said, maybe they're considered advanced beings. They're already past the point. They're dimensional beings or interdimensional beings. And plus, they're also, when they appear in your mind, they're known as what they call the cultural template. This is something that you want to think about in this place. And so we can go into what we call sleep paralysis. We can go into hypnotic hallucinations. We can go into that. And on waking from the REM area of your sleep, the body stays paralyzed while dreaming imaginary imagery intrudes. So it's something about when we get into this particular dream state, when the mantis shows up, that it is particularly easy and defined for them to enter into this particular state of our consciousness, producing what they call a sense presence. Now, this is something that has happened all the time, and the inability to move. And so the same thing when it comes to sleep paralysis, we're talking about the mantis being, but I think sleep paralysis is a true entity, that I will tell you 100%. That it is a true entity that is approached, that is doing, because the erratic behavior when it's in sleep paralysis and the things that it tries to do, it is crazy when it comes to that. And so this is where protection and everything else comes to play when you start thinking about some of the things that you're doing. And I know it's Friday. I know tomorrow you're going to be Saturday and Sunday in church. Some people are going to be in church and the Lord says this and the Lord says that. And you need to do all these things, and then you're going to walk out of church, and then you're going to be like, oh, by the way, I see a mantis on my windowsill. Do you go get the can of Raid, or do you let it sit there, and then, or do you come on a show and say it gave you a message? The mantis told me that the world is gonna, a UFO is gonna be in Texas tomorrow, and it's going to abduct 800 people, and Devin is sitting there leading the pack. So I'm saying these things are very difficult to track, because once we talk about things in the mind, there's no way to track it. There's just no way to track it. And especially when it comes back down to, again, sleep paralysis and these figures and things that are holding you down in the bed. And then you hear some people say, oh, I ain't never had sleep paralysis. Oh, you didn't remember, or maybe they just don't want to mess with you, because they're not just you got to remember alien interventions, alien abductions, alien experiences, visitations is DNA based. They're looking through DNA lineages and everything else. And so I will say that that'll be something, because you got to remember, hypnosis has been the standard thing that they've used for recovery. So when we talk about doing a what's the word, past life regression, that is always interesting. Doing a past life regression is very interesting when you do this. And it's been a tool that they use since Betty and Barnum Hill. Remember, they put them under hypnosis, and they found people reporting abductions, and of course, memory distortion. Now, there was some that says that the government or the deep state or whoever's doing this is planting these imagery into people. They're deliberately planting these imagery. So it is them doing the abductions, and then they're coming back to plant some type of storyline and everything else. And so that is something interesting to do that. But, we have to ask ourselves, why does it make sense? What's going on with here? And we're talking about recurring features without inventing the biology. And when I'm talking about the biology, we don't see the not reptilians, but the insectoids walking around. We just don't see them. It's just not happening. And so I'm not debunking this. I'm not saying that they don't exist, because I do believe we're in a strange world. We're in a very strange world. And being in this strange world, we're going to do that, and just going to see some stuff. All right. We can talk about consistency, though. This is where I move things to the side. We're talking about consistency, and the believers, they all cite this thing. They're talking about these encounters and all of this stuff. And you got to go all the way back to the 50s, because we're not hearing about these things. And so I think it's just something that we want to think about. But you got to remember that a lot of these encounters and contactees, which grew up, in the 1950s, these people were blonde, blue-eyed, and they were, we're talking about the friendly Nordic aliens in the 1950s was quickly replaced by small, unfriendly bug-eyed creatures. The aliens have shifted. There were insectoids, there was tall grays, and then we got Nordics, and then we have Palladians, and then we got avians, and then we got whatever. It's like the story switches over time. Everybody's talking about the different ones until all of a sudden we have all of them. Hey, Rod, I'm not in the show, but love your work. Most things turn to be not myth. I'm not allowed. Okay, I'm not really for sure what you said, but appreciate you coming on the show and everything. And if you're here for the very first time, if you're watching me for the very first time, put a 1 in the chat. Let me know if you're watching me for the very first time. And I want to give you a personal shout out, and then of course encourage you to subscribe to the channel. But if you're watching me for the very first time, I will definitely want to give you a shout out. If you're here in Dallas tomorrow at 7 p.m., if you have not got on our Dallas text list, make sure you get on a text list. Let me make sure I can put this on the screen for you to join. That is, you want to text the keyword truth to 888-440-9771. And you could be in Fort Worth, you could be in Forney, you can be 20 minutes away, 30 minutes outside of Dallas, that counts. But get on our text list, because like tomorrow, we will be in our little event room. We'll have our little hot dogs machines out, for those of you, maybe a few drinks, non-alcoholic drinks. If you want alcohol, you bring your own stuff. And we're going to watch Disclosure Day. We got a little street copy of it, and we'll just watch it, and then we'll discuss it as a group. We'll discuss the movie as a group. But I also think that I'll get TK to make sure you over there, you with me? So I'll get TK. I got y'all on the screen now too. Maybe we got index cards. I think we got some pens and paper. And we'll leave the desk up in there this time when we watch it. Still the same chairs, but people can kind of watch and write down, and then they can do their discussion points when the movie is over. They were like, "Oh, yeah, I want to talk about this. I want to talk about this." What do y'all think?
I agree. That would be awesome. Oh, I apologize. Go ahead.
Great idea.
Great idea. Okay, yeah. So what we'll do then is make sure that we get the for those of you coming tomorrow at 7 o'clock, we'll probably kick off right around 7:30. We're gonna have a great time. So we're gonna watch the Disclosure movie on a big projector and everything else. And then we will, during the movie, just write down stuff, and then we'll discuss it and anything else. And I think it's very, a lot of people say, "Oh, I already seen it" or something. But I think when you watch these type of movies, especially with heavy symbolism, then you will be able to see things that you didn't see before. And these will be things, maybe it's something on the wall, maybe it's something we missed. And we can easily rewind back to something like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And we can do that. Holly from Make Its Own Designs will be there too. And pretty much, and of course, we got shea butter. We're buttering back, butter, 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 and making the skin soft and everything else. I got a good haircut today. I'm soft and softy. So if you want to come and feel my softness, y'all can feel it. I have been rubbed like, here, boy, you so soft here, boy. I'm giving y'all key codes to me. Just say something like, you go, boy, you boy. You know what I'm saying? I'll be like, okay, 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 I'm ready, ready, ready. Whatever. But anyway, shea butter, feels good, soft, and smell good, and everything else makes me want to be edible. And so eat me, do the thing.
Oh my God.
And I'm saying I'm edible. What?
Okay.
What are you thinking over there? You know what I'm saying? You wouldn't tell somebody to eat you?
No.
Bite you? Shit. You know what I'm saying? What are you talking about?
Hey, let's change the subject.
I'm saying little nibble. Shit. Listen, don't be coming for lots of raptor and shit. I didn't say that, y'all. You know what I'm saying? But a little, kissy goes a long way. Little nipple. I mean, nibbles. Let me get out of this shit. But the whole point I'm saying, let me just get out of it. Okay.
Roger, let me make a point.
Make a point. I'm just saying. But go ahead.
What you just read, I forget who you were reading.
Yeah.
But with every myth,
somebody try to sup you up like a biscuit. Yeah, you go, girl.
With every myth, like every legend, there's a seed of truth. Yeah. So that's the one that you just read. And I don't know if this is a question or not, but Relics XO.
Mm-hmm.
She said something about the Insectoid. They protected us from cataclysms.
Well, they said that with the ant people, though. They're talking about the ant people from the cataclysm of the Great Deluge, the floods. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But the point that I was making is, she said the Grand Canyon, and I don't know if people know, but there's pyramids, there's a Sphinx in the Grand Canyon, and the government, being NASA, they're blocking a lot of the entrances in the Grand Canyon right now. So if you want to see the wonder of the Grand Canyon, I would suggest that you go right now, because they're blocking a lot of entrances, and they're blocking them with military personnel with fully automatic weapons. They're doing the same thing at the Pyramid of Giza. NASA owns the rights to the entrance because it's ancient relics. There's technology down there.
Right.
So that's why they're blocking everyone from going down there. So if you want to see Earth's beauty, go now, because they're taking it over. Well,
I mean, again, a lot of the grand secrets and things that we see out there will be changing, and it's all about the great reveal too, because we're in Aquarius age. So Aquarius age is saying that the truth is going to be unveiled, supposedly in a nutshell, over the next thousands of years here. So this is probably why a lot of them is admitting to things. If they want to line up with the cosmic power and line up with all these things, then they are going to admit things. Someone said, I was told a video on YouTube show a hidden race of people. The video got pulled seconds later. Yeah, if it's making incredible claims, you're going to get this. But there is someone monitoring. And I'm glad you said that, because that segues me into our disc that we have here. And this is, has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of things that they pull. Usually, if they pull something, it is some truth in it, because you got to remember, there's not one person out there with all the truth. But if you start making a accumulation of truths, then you can start getting a better picture. And so there has been a couple of you who contacted me about getting your copy of this. This is something, like I say, need to go in a safe deposit box for your grandchildren. Information they will never see again, but they're going to need to know all of these things. And of course, there's a investment. You got to have a good SAD drive and stuff like that, and then the contribution of what we're doing. But we're talking 20,000 books and things, so you don't got to go spend money on certain books. There's books in here that are rare, that are $900, $800 that you have in here, you get access to, that you're not physically going to spend $10,000 on 3 books, and yet the data is in here. So whenever you see something weird, you type it in here. It's all indexed. You're going to find things. 5,000 videos, 20,000 audio stuff on Jordan Maxwell. All these people. Now, if they ain't in here, it ain't no normal people that you've been listening to. And for those of you who reached out, you are going to be on top of the game. And when a lot of this stuff, like he's talking about, they make disappear, you have a copy in here. And again, you can go to my email address, Rod, my personal email address, rod@roderickmartin.com. And I will, and I've had somebody reach out, but I'm just letting y'all know, please put your contact number. I cannot fathom the reach out, and it's like no number, but you're interested in. I don't know if that's the norm, if that's how people do it, but I'm saying to you, don't do it that way. You see who I am, you know who I am. I'm not hiding from you, and so therefore I at least want to know who I'm talking to. And if you're going to hide from me, then wonder if I don't return a call, if I don't, not the call, but I do return those if I see a number. So just keep that in mind. We're on the same team. And so if you want to be hidden, but you want information, that doesn't work. It just can't work for none of us that way. And I'm just being honest and open and transparent to you to let you know there's a lot of you want some great information, but at the end of the day, you're not prepared to follow what I would say, just to even the simple things of saying, hey, all right, what's your contact number? And we're so afraid of our shadows. We're so afraid of truth that I don't even know how we survive as far as we are, because they're not bumping us off. This is not going to get you bumped off because it's just truth. All right. And it's truth that they don't fear 10,000 people knowing the truth, but they do fear a bunch of people telling it everywhere, and it becomes millions and millions because they don't worry about it. They don't worry about a million people slipping through the cracks that you make $1 million. They don't care about that. They don't care at all. But what they do care about is when it comes down to thousands of people. So get you and your generation together, get you and your family together, do your job and get your generation in your family to the next level. And what they need is information. So it's right there on the screen. Rod@roderickmartin.com. Yes, it is an investment. You need 2 terabytes, and you can go do that. I suggest that you secure your information. I've had people like, oh, I'll get my disk drive, then I'll call you. Don't do that, because you're talking weeks from now, and there's no need to even reaching out, okay? Because obviously we can all come up with things that we're doing, because we're going to shut that down. And it's probably my 3rd time of saying that we need to shut it down, but I do have to do that. But anyway, for those of you who have made contact, you are now in the elite level of information. You don't need to worry about what anybody else say. Your truth is in here for you, your family, for whatever you're looking for is in here. Hell, you can start your own podcast, write books. You got so much stuff now. It'll take you years to go through 20,000 books, 20,000 emails, 5,000 videos. So when you just scroll with the death scroll, just go that. So anyway, I'm just letting you know we can go. So let's continue the conversation before we get out here. It's Friday. And if you're in Dallas, who's coming up here tomorrow? So who's going to watch a movie with us tomorrow? We sent out a text. Roderick, can you 3D print a saucer? Yeah, I can. Yeah. In fact, I was working on it. I can 3D print a flying saucer. I can 3D print the one that looks like a flying saucer, and then it had that beam and got the cowl up in there. I was going to do something like that. I can make it this small, this big. You just tell me how we can do it. Reach me, Terrence, on my email, rod@roderickmartin.com. Put in your telephone number. I will call you. I'll call you this evening or tomorrow, just whenever, and we can discuss that. Okay. Question. Let's put up here and see what we got. Question says, are there any etchings in stone in regard to insectoids located anywhere around the world? Most of, like I said before, most of your insectoids depictions are imaginary. Telepathy. We don't have no physical forms. Now, as far as there is something back in ancient, the Sanskrits, remember I was just saying that earlier. So there are depictions in that. As a matter of fact, let me go back to my notes real quick. There was back in the time of, let's go back one page here. I think it was ancient Egyptian mythology. Kagan. Remember I said something about Kagan, the trickster? And that will go all the way back to Egyptian Book of the Dead. Yeah. So to be the Egyptian Book of the Dead, we're talking about Kagan, which is the strict trickster, which was known as a Mantis Being. So this will come out of Egypt. And so that is something that I will say, if we can go from there. Monkey says, I get overwhelmed since I'm trying to learn everything. It's a lot to learn. So it makes me so angry when I never was taught this information. That's, you know what? That's, let me give you some advice on that, Monkey. You're now awakening. A lot of people get scared. The ones who get pissed, like I did, like you are, like other people, you're on track because you're no longer fearing. Now you know you've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, and all this stuff, and now your temperament on it is going to be different. Your courage toward it is going to be different. Your research is going to be different. People who are skeptical, who are still, they won't go certain places. They won't go and get certain information. The reason this don't in our 33 parallel is just not full of hundreds of people getting that esoteric knowledge. And actually, I was talking to a friend of mine last night. She said the only reason she has not wanting to go into astral projection because she's afraid. And that's a fair assessment because there's a lot of other people that are afraid, to astral project, to do these things, but yet they tinker with the thoughts. But that's your given right to access the cosmos and to get to the other side, to see what you can't see, to that is your inner self and higher self, all the connections. But yet we're pursuing consciousness. We're pursuing raising our vibrations, but we have what we call no-go areas. And so by you being pissed off, take that and run with it. Make it that pissed off, do your investments into knowledge and information. And then the more you learn, the more it gets. And now all of a sudden the pursuit becomes totally different. The pursuit comes totally different. And you'll be doing that. And so again, like Judith says, you're right where you need to be. You're right where you need to be. And so just stay there and then let it take you to other places in the world, I should say. And so I think it's interesting in doing that. With that being said, I'm going to give you all a few timelines of things that we can think about here. We're talking about the first men. This is in 1901. The first men in the moon, or the first men in the moon models, Insectoid, Celeste was on an ant colony. Remember, we was talking about the ant people. This is in Wikipedia. In 1902, there was films, Insectoid, Selentis, Selites or whatever, which again was the trip of the moon. Then you have the Bug-Eye Monster cover. This was out there in Astounding Stories. This was Grokpedia. This is in May of 1931. Then you have in 1939, there was the Bug-Eye coined in the Thriller Wonder stories. Remember that one. 1952, there was a contactee mythology shift from friendly Nordics to bugs. So Nordics was the popular thing in the 50s and early 40s and 50s after the gray aliens. Why wouldn't it? So now they let you know the Nordics are being resurfaced now, but when the gray aliens showed up, somebody came out with the story of the Nordics again. Okay. So I think that Nordic story is planted. It's something to give us the illusion of keeping the I would say a systemic approach of how we need to be ruled or governed, or saying this particular race is more powerful than this race. And now that it's coming back again in full circle, and you got to remember, nothing is new. You know, anything we're dealing with has been done. So those are things, and you can kind of go there. In 1957, there was remember I said at the beginning, the opening line of the show was in 1957. There was a Cincinnati nurse that saw a 3-foot mantis being, and that kind of changed everything. Everybody always talks is like 8 feet tall. And then when we talk about the Hill case, they popularized the gray, and then of course we went into hypnosis. This is in 1961, and then of course in 1980 and the 90s, now hypnosis reported, mantis cases from David, the Turners, the Porters, the Higgins, the Huggins. It was like crazy, these things that's going. And now in 2000, 2005, we're now talking more about memory distortion now, sleep paralysis studies popping up everywhere about this time. And then just 2 years ago, we're talking about lucid dreaming, okay? The study reproduces alien encounters. So there are so many things that they are doing that, once again, I think at some point we need to be a little more cognitive of what is happening from there, and pretty much. And so, once again, if you haven't had an opportunity to, join us in or subscribe to the channel, make sure you go ahead and do that. It is Friday. We were doing our 5 for 5s and everything else. We will definitely continue going in our Patreon all next week, doing some live streaming. This week we were just focusing on making sure everybody's in there to download. Download your. Hang on, make sure I do this right here. I want to make sure that you download your files and everything to study, so you can study your out of body experience and everything else. And so we definitely want to do that and make it all happen and make it goes from there. So let me see here. So we're good. So with that being said, there are any questions before we get out of here? It's Friday. We're not doing our potluck unless one of these two we do something, but we're gonna stop eating at that chicken place. I think they're not using real chicken.
I agree.
You agree too?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm still feeling a certain type of way from it too.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel, so we're gonna have to cancel them out and everything else. So once I wish I was close to Dallas. Yeah, you should be, and we can do that. So if there's any other thing that y'all want to say before we get out of here, it's Friday, and I'll look for those of you who want more information and whatever else. You can reach out to me. Someone said eat some fish, eat some stuff. Yeah, we need to find some good stuff to do. And I'm just waiting. And all right, so we don't have any questions. Like I said, it's been a pleasure and pleasure as well as a privilege. I love you. If you don't get an opportunity to hear those words, I want you to take my words with you over the weekend. I love you. If you see me at the grocery store or at the park, walk up and tell me I love you. And we will do that. Yeah, just give me a call. Well, you got my number, so text me, Monkey. You should have my number still. So just hit me up, and then we'll get together on that, and you can do that. Fish contaminate with parasites too. But anyway, so I love you all. And if you're coming again to the event with Brother Yosef, make sure y'all come down here for the relationship stuff too. We're gonna have a great time that weekend when we're here. And again, if you're here tomorrow, we're gonna have a great time tomorrow. And we'll see all of you there tomorrow. And other than that, anything else y'all want to say to these fine people? Let me put y'all on the screen.
Just want to say thanks for coming out and joining us for the 5 at 5, and it's always fun. And it's just a great pleasure to be here learning.
I second that. And have a great weekend. Have a safe weekend. Enjoy yourself. And we will see you Monday at 5.
She said, every time y'all talking about getting together, I'd be a little bit jelly up there in Pennsylvania. I like to be. Why not? Why didn't I live in Texas? Well, Texas is a big place. There's plenty of places for people to live here. You just don't live here. So come to Texas. That's all I can tell everybody. Come to Texas. We got a lot of stuff we'll do. Yeah. So I'll see y'all Monday, and the other ones I'll see y'all tomorrow. And then in 2 weeks, starting July. And let me make this announcement. So for those of you know, we started this journey last year where we started doing community. So we're going to do our anniversary. We're going to go back to where it all started. But this is a nice place where we can chill. We're going to have a barbecue. We're just going to sit out and talk, and, a little playground for the kids too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Little playground for the kids and everything else. Courtney, what's going on, my sister? Courtney is in the house. Y'all give her a shout out. We got to talk. I need a reading. I need a reading ASAP. I need to whip out. I got about 6 names. I need a reading. So Courtney, y'all know Courtney. She's in the house. She just had her anniversary, 1 year anniversary, her and Ethan. And then, of course, her daughter was married over the weekend, and it's just a beautiful thing. So she said, hey, let's do it next week. Cool. Yeah, we'll do it next week and make it happen. And if y'all do need a reading, if you need something in particular, Cord, put your, you got an email, or how would they contact you? I'm telling y'all, she's one of the best out here who I trust immensely, with much love and respect and power and all of those things. But if you really need someone to guide you to these things, Courtney is the one. Okay. So Courtney, you put it in a chat. Maybe you got a way they can contact you or something, but this is who I go to for my readings and there we go. So I'm going to put that on the screen now. CourtneyKaneSides.com. So y'all go there. Make sure you go there. Let me do this real quick. Give a good super sticker to Elizabeth, and let me put this back up there. Yeah, so y'all go to Courtney's website, man. Go there and get your readings. Join her private memberships and be guided, man. Be really guided by someone who's really has a lot of empathy, which is what we're doing. And again, she's one of the best there in the whole 9 world. So let's make it happen. And again, so I love y'all. I love each and every one of you. I will see y'all Monday, 5 for 5, all day next week, and 3 nights in our Patreon, the 33 Parallel. And those of you in the Patreon, if there's anything in particular you need and look for, send me some private messages there, and so we can communicate all weekend if y'all want to. That's the place. And then the calendar should be up so y'all can get your consultation calls. It's free in a Patreon. Talk to me, and let's talk. You just schedule on the schedule on your bed that comes with the Patreon for the 33 Parallel, because you need to be talked to. We all need to be talked to and everything else. And they already said goodbye to you all over there, the duo over there. And so we're out. Let's go. We'll see y'all.
UFOs.
UAPs.
Unidentified anomalous phenomena.
Unidentified aerial phenomenon. Who are they? Where are they from? And what is their intent?
All questions that immediately come to mind with the mention of UFOs.
A Pentagon report is detailing a dramatic increase in UFO sightings, more than 350 since 2021. Many of them are explained as being drones, birds, or weather events, but about half of them remain unexplained.
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Look at that thing, dude.
This video taken by the Navy showing what he describes as pyramid-shaped UFOs flying over the USS Russell off the San Diego coast in July of 2019. The Pentagon has since confirmed that the video is authentic.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. Army officers say the missile, found sometime last week, has been inspected at Roswell, New Mexico, and sent to Wright Field, Ohio, for further inspection. Late this afternoon, a bulletin from New Mexico suggested that the widely publicized mystery of the flying saucers may soon be solved. Army Air Force officers reported that one of the strange discs had been found and inspected sometime last week. Our correspondents in Los Angeles and Chicago have been in contact with Army officials endeavoring to obtain all possible late information. Joe Wilson reports to us now from Chicago. The Army may be getting to the bottom of all this talk about the so-called flying saucers. As a matter of fact, the 509th Atomic Bomb Group headquarters at Roswell, New Mexico, reports that it has received one of the discs which landed on a ranch outside Roswell. The disc landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico, and the rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil is the man who discovered the saucer.
There's footage and records of objects in the skies that we don't know exactly what they are.
More people are coming forward with their own sightings.
Videos recorded by U.S. Navy personnel have added a new layer of evidence to the current national debate about UFOs.
Right at that moment, I saw what looked like 5 lights flying in formation in kind of an inverted check mark.
The NASA independent study team did not find any evidence that UAP have an extraterrestrial origin. We don't know what these UAP are.
The mysterious flying objects are still a mystery. NASA will continue investigating them and has appointed a director of UAP research.
Technology that we faced was far superior than anything that we had.
Let's try.